And there is young Edison. He's about 32 years old. He was actually asked by the patent office to bring his phonograph so they could see a demonstration. And then someone said, why don't you take it over to the president's house and show it to him? Because that's what they used to call it, the president's house. And he did. And the story is that the president and his wife played with it all night long. These machines are cylinder phonographs. First they were tin foil, then they were cylinder. Cylinder means the record is a cylinder shape. So this is an original. They were sold in these boxes. You see those lines on there? Those are recordings. Here's the name of the song and the artist. These are all original, and all these machines are original, and I'm going to play original music. So I beg your pardon, there's little bumps in a few of them. The original cylinders were made out of, and you can see it back here, brown wax. This is what happens to brown wax. So that's why I have it like this. Someone held one in their hand and it just disintegrated. Because they're old. They're very old. They stopped making cylinders in 1931. The wax are even older. These three machines are 117 years old. So Edison had his name on it, and he does. That's his signature and his trademark. It was going to work. How do you make it work? You wind it. When you wind it, you're tightening the spring inside this spring box right here. When you release it, it moves the gears. See, with centrifugal force, this opened up. Watch when I turn it off, it'll shrink back again and then open up. It actually has a hole through the box coming up the top. These machines were not made at West Orange. I'm sorry, they weren't made here. They were made later on at West Orange. Edison is here for 8 years, but after 6 years, he's living a lot in New York City, coming back and forth. His young wife, Mary, takes ill and dies in their house at the end of the street. She's 29 years old. He's up to his elbows, literally, in New York City, digging ditches with his men, laying the wires, because he's doing the first lighting square mile of electricity to test it out. His power plant, the first central distribution system in the world, is at Pearl Street, about 4 or 5 blocks off the Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan side. And he's got to go back to work. He closes this up and never comes back to live here again. 2 years later, he meets and marries his second wife, and he's now a very rich man because he started a company we know today as General Electric. And you've heard of Con Ed. Those are all Edison's companies consolidated together. And he has many, many, many companies. Now, turn this on. Let's listen. I'll be right with you. Now, the volume is down a little. You might have heard the rude comment, oh, put a sock in it. Pull a sock out, and now the volume is raised. That expression came from this machine. Want it to be a little quieter again? Put a sock in it. Now, volume is really important. This is a man who has terrible hearing, and his employee said he didn't have the greatest sense of music either, what to choose. But he did know mechanics. You all can come over a little bit more. Folks, you're welcome to come back here. So these machines were considered portable. You can put a lid on top of it, like a boom box, back in my day, and we would take them to the beach. You could have done the same thing with his phonograph. So let's listen to it without the horn. This is called a witch's hat horn. So why? I don't know why they didn't call it a wizard horn, but they called it a witch's hat. This is a signet horn. Listen to the change in volume and clarity with just this little horn. Now, the larger the horn, the louder the sound. It would be one of Edison's competitors. editors who, they weren't trying to get around the patent agreements, would come up with a disc record. Actually, Edison did some early work on embossing, they called it, but he thought the cylinders had better sound. They don't skip like a record could, but you know what? The public wanted something easier. And they first came out with only one song on the front, and then later on we have double-sided. This is an 80. I know most people think it's called a 78, and the reason for the numbers is revolutions per minute, RPM. So this had 80 revolutions. You could not put this record, which we cut out just to show you what the inside looked like, on a Victrola. They weren't interchangeable because they did use 78s. So this is an original record, and let me pass it around. You can give it a little scratch, see how it feels. All those lines are recordings. This machine is only 10 years newer than this. No one asked me. Yeah, this is huge. This is a piece of furniture. This is actually standing on the floor. It's so tall, we had to cut a hole through. Otherwise, nobody would be able to see inside of it. It was popularity. To record on this machine, you had to create a recording, and then reverse record it, and then do it again. I mean, it was so much work. These press, that was it. So it made more sense. This machine cost $79 when new. Somebody asked us yesterday, one of my docents said, other people would have it. No, only people who had money had these. $79 back then was a fortune. You could get a little model for maybe $15. That was a fortune at that time. Let's listen to this one. Uncle Sam on top. Now, Edison did not invent the toy. That was an accessory that was used afterwards. Let you listen to it. Oh, by the way, you saw this socket there. In here, there's a cable with a mute on it. When I move it, it opens it. Let's listen to how beautiful this sounds with that Uncle Sam. This is an original record. It still sounds really good. Here's my favorite part. A little jazzy. The machines did not come with a mirror in them. Our exhibit designer's like my size, so that was his idea, very smart. And then we could put, this is Uncle Sam, by the way, is a replica. All the originals I ever see are missing limbs, so we didn't want that. We have to remember, no radio, no telephone. No one had them in their house unless you were J.P. Morgan. Nobody had television. There's no movies. This was entertainment. I mean, this is what he called the invention factory. He hired great people who worked with him, but he was not sitting, although some articles I read online, oh yeah, his people were inventing everything. That's not how it was. They all followed the directions of him. There's a quote right over here about our research and development. It says, laboratory life with Edison was a strenuous but joyous life for all, physically, mentally, and emotionally. We worked long night hours during the week because he was nocturnal, and frequently to the limit of human endurance, but they loved it. People would offer to work for him for nothing. Thank you. We call that an internship today, by the way. And, but he didn't have people work for him for nothing. People would want to work with him just for a while because then they could get a job anywhere in the world. Over here, we're going to all become inventors. So this is a little generator, came out of an old phone, you see on the old movies. And so you could light this up. Little ones will need help. Be careful you don't pull it that way. This weighs a ton. This is a closed circuit. I open this circuit all the way. I have no power, no resistance. You can all become a human battery. I love this part where people, I just had two young children here and they hit 100 like this. I'm lucky if I ever get 20. And then Edison, everyone was using, let me show you all. Series circuits, power, wire through each bulb. Turn one off, the whole house would go off. Not practical. Edison does not invent, but he's always reading, always learning, never stops. He reads something by one of his heroes, Michael Faraday, where he talks about the theory for Parallel circuits. Power. Each light is lit individually. You all manipulate electricity every single day. Brilliant. Now, Edison also at Menlo Park creates the iron ore separator. Ore is so expensive, he needs it for his work, but the best ores come from England. It's a fortune. Not all ore is found in every rock, as you can see. Once you crush it, how do you get it separated? Here is sand. Here is iron ore. He uses electromagnets. Seems so simple, doesn't it? One of my docents also likes to say that Edison finds simple solutions for complex problems. Once somebody asked, he was asked to give a question out to a group of very brilliant men. Okay, figure out the volume inside this light bulb. So the men are getting out their slide rules and they're measuring, and he took the bulb over, cut the top off, poured water in it, and poured it into, just find simple solutions for easy things. The tower, this plaque right here shows you, and I know that we're a little crowded, so I apologize. Thank you so much. So this shows you that it was falling apart. Water damage. Water is one of the, one of the strongest things that we have in nature, and it also creates a lot of damage. And so this tower is 80 years old this year. It was dedicated 79 years ago on what would have been Edison's 91st birthday. We just celebrated his 170th birthday last month. And it was restored. It was on the 10 most endangered list, but it was restored in 2015 in November. So it does play music. We'll be playing music for you all. Over here, it talks about the first light bulb on top of the tower. Well, it is the only light bulb on top of the tower. I don't want to misspeak. But the light bulb is a structure. It's not a real light bulb. It's a structure made out of 6,000 pounds of Corning glass, made by the Corning Glass Company, Pyrex, heat-resistant material that almost everyone in here probably has in their kitchen for the microwave and the oven. They used to at one time make light bulbs. So the tower is on the National and State Historic Site list, and we have visitors from all over the world every single day. And I'm trying to think what, and I'll be starting the tour again up front. We're going to now invite you to go outside to the tower, and you're going to come back in this way because I could only get them to shovel from there to here, not the front way, and you can come back through again. Those of you who missed the front room or even any part of the back room, please stay around. We like to have our visitors have a full enjoyment of the tour. Does anybody have any questions? Yes?
Is it true that some of the original light bulbs, the filaments never really burn out like in current modern light bulbs?
There are light bulbs all over the world that have webcams on them because they're over 100 years old and they're still lit. They were made to last. It's like, look, when I was young, if a toaster broke, they fixed it. They don't do that today. They used to go to the TV repair store. I remember being very little, probably this size, and my father testing test tubes, or not test tubes, tubes for the vacuum tubes for the TV. Oh, actually, Edison actually creates the first patent in electronics. It's called the Edison effect, and it is the forerunner of the vacuum tube. I mean, 1,093 U.S. patents. He did pretty well. He will create the recording industry. He'll create the movie industry. He'll create the electrical industry. And there's just so much more. And in diverse fields. He no longer holds a patent for the most patents for one man ever, because there's somebody in computers who has that now, but it's one industry. His last patent came out, he was granted it after he passed away, and it was for creating rubber out of the plant goldenrod with Harvey Firestone from the Firestone Tire Company. So, he just had such varied interests. He was on the Naval Consulting Board right after World War I. Well, during World War I, trying to work on sonar. Not that he really created anything, but he was reporting to FDR, who was Secretary of the Navy at the time. Yes?
Do you have any projects from his own lab?
Well, I have items from his own lab. The lathe right there is from the Menlo Park lab. There's electrical testing devices up front that were used here at Menlo Park. There's only two things that aren't original Edison in here, in the museum. One is that model of the phonograph right there in that cube. That's a model. I mean, it's an original, but it's not the first one. And then this same tinfoil one over here, back here. And that tinfoil one there is worth more than all the others combined, even though it's not an original because it's so special and so rare. And then we have some archaeology from the site in the case back there. Most importantly, his vacuum pump, which is what he wins court cases in. Many people were working on making lights at that time. Many people. He's been trying to make electric lights since 1804. He perfects incandescent light October 21st, 1879. But I was telling some folks earlier that his greatest invention probably is the device of modern research and development and electrical distribution. And no, Tesla never worked here. I get asked that all the time. The AC/DC wars are Westinghouse and Edison, not Tesla. It's Tesla's patents that Westinghouse really bought off of him for a song. And that's why Tesla doesn't die a rich man. And we have a great biography on, many on Edison and also Tesla out front. All right, let me just get my group and we'll get the key and we'll go outside if you'd like to go. And we're going to put the music on for the tower outside. It lights every night and it looks beautiful.
You really have that. Was built in 1929, that everlasting light. It's been on since 1929, built by the Edison pioneers, or men who worked for Edison. It commemorates the 50-year anniversary of when the light bulb was perfected in 1879. So this has been on almost about like 80 years. So you can tell there's no filament actually in the light bulb, or else that would have burned out. There's actually spotlights from a Model T Ford powered by generators underneath that shine a light underneath. It's been on ever since. That's all. Yeah, it's not as impressive as you think.
Well, it's impressive. It's been going on for
Yes.
50 years, more than 50 years.
Yeah, I mean,